I'm Kate Wheeler, President and CEO of Crystal Cove Conservancy, and I'm so happy to be here today with our hosts for our June 24th event, which will be our first in-person event post-COVID. We're not quite post-COVID yet, so we're going to stay a little bit separated, but it's coming, so introverts start to panic. I'm here today with Sarah Lowell, Steve Robbins and Marisa Robbins, Carrie and Gavin Herbert, Greg and Barb McGilvray, and Eric Smythe. So let's jump into some questions. Eric, let's start with you. All of you have been such great supporters of Crystal Cove, and you, Eric and Ann, have been really wonderful supporters over the years. So tell us more about why. I mean, I understand it, I get it, but there are an awful lot of organizations doing good work out there. So is there a part of our mission that really speaks to you?
My original expectations to get involved with the group was to help save the cottages, because I grew up in Laguna Beach, Dana Point, and we lost all that architecture. This is the last of it. And for me to be able to participate and support the preservation of the cottages was really special. It's unique. It's the last of its kind. So for me, that was the original, way that I got involved.
I think it's that Crystal Cove has everything. It's really the whole package. You have the pristine cove and beaches, and then you have the backcountry, and it's just so emblematic of what Southern California and Orange County is to me. The beaches meeting the hills, and so that's really something that just feels like home to me here.
I would say that for me, I think for us, is we came late to this beautiful party. I am an original bred and born in the San Fernando Valley, which is 2.5 hours from here. And, my life was spent there, and we would come to the ocean once in a great while. And so we have been fortunate in the last 10 years to be living here in Laguna Beach. And through living there, we've met some fabulous people that are around here right now. And through our connections to them, we have come to parties here and just had a fabulous time. And my husband is an avid paddleboarder and kayaker and swimmer and scuba diver. I'm not a swimmer yet, and that's a whole nother story. But what I know is how much I appreciate the ocean. So I think it's so important to have kids understand the value of our ocean and the implications of climate change. And, well, one can go on, but I won't.
You did.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, my introduction really was on my paddleboard. I took from Laguna Beach, a long paddle and saw those cottages, and they had my heart from the beginning. And so we're very blessed to be on this coastline, and Crystal Cove and the cottages and all the things that are done was like a surprise finding out.
We love the educational outreach, and that is so important. And you guys do a really great job with it, and being able to bring kids out there or bring them to the Burn Center and give them all this information and get them inspired about the ocean and the needs of the ocean, which are so great, and it gets me all choked up.
Oh,
But I do choke easily.
she's worse than President Biden this way.
I choke up pretty easily too.
Back to your intro about some of us live close or are fortunate enough to live close. We do, and I look at this as an extension of my front yard. And so we have a Labradoodle that needs a lot of walking, and my destination is Crystal Cove. And the charming staff at the check-in cottage usually has a treat for him, and coffee for all Conservancy members, just a plug for that. And I get my morning coffee, and he gets his dog biscuit, and we get to look at this magical ocean.
That's a great question. When I thought about it, our family moved to Newport Beach in 1960, so I was 2. And we had moved to Cameo Shores in 1968. I was about 12. And you can imagine this is a playground for a young boy, and in Cameo Shores, at the very end of the beach were these cottages, and people lived in those cottages. And it was a scary thing to go down because they'd kick you off. It was their beach, they were very territorial about it, so where does a little boy want to go? Down to those cottages. So to be able to be a part, to save those cottages, to have it a part. And I think the West Coast does a terrible job of keeping its history. And I think we're restoring kind of a way of life.
That's great. Let's move on. I have more questions for you. So I know for some of you, you live next door to the Cove, so I kind of know how you've been introduced to the Cove, but I'd love to know more about your origin story. Maybe not how you found the place, but how you found the Conservancy. Marisa and Steve, do you want to start?
I do remember meeting Harry through Barbara and Greg. We were also guests at the big gala that used to be on the bluff, and that was pretty great.
I came to some parties. I had known about the organization for a long, long time. So for me, it was very organic to get involved. But again, Teddy and Gavin and Jeff really got my wife and I involved a number of years back. So it's been a real pleasure to be involved.
I will tell you, we had a dear friend, Doug Kavanaugh, when he opened Beachcombers in the very first gala. We were invited to the deck, and I knew we were in when my wife was, we're in.
Well, I actually did research on this to figure out because it was through Harry Helling, because he'd been at the Ocean Institute for years, and then he came to Crystal Cove, and we had been following him and been there at Ocean Institute when he was there, and got to know him really well there. Anyway, we did so many different events down there in the cottages, and it was just always very special to be down there, and they would, oh my gosh, we were hosted at tons of different things, and there were fundraising events too, but it was just always glorious. And then, of course, what we love is that we mountain bike, and we come by here and we go through the whole nature center over there, and then we come by here every Saturday. So it's a very special place. Go ahead, Greg, take it away.
But no, well, I love the cottages too. And just the fact that those cottages were saved, it's sort of our West Coast Sturbridge Village. The East Coast has all their historical sites, the 300 years old. Out here we've got the cottages, and thankfully we got them saved. And I think it's everyone who's been donating to this cause for a number of years. We're finally getting the last cottages renovated. And it's a wonderful success story because it's an important thing to the West Coast.
I went to elementary school at El Moro, which is surrounded by Crystal Cove State Park. And so we spent a lot of time in the park, and I remember going on field trips as kids into the park. But the Conservancy, Marisla Foundation has been involved with the Conservancy since 2005 was our first grant. And I remember really it's through my mom, Ann Earhart, who was very active in making sure that the Cove was protected. She met Laura Davik and was really inspired by Laura and her passion for the Cove. She was there at that fateful hearing where the state parks decided to overturn the contract and really make this a place for Californians and people all over.
So we talk a lot about the interconnectedness of ecosystems. Plants, animals, water, they don't see boundaries. And there are a lot of organizations working to ensure that our ecosystems are protected, and a lot of organizations doing really great work in Orange County. So Sarah, why don't we start with you? Will you tell us about another organization that you support and why?
Yeah, I sit on the board of the Ecology Center in San Juan Capistrano, and it also is a very special place in Orange County and very unique, like Crystal Cove. It's a place where you can go and really learn about sustainability, and you can actually access food, really healthy and organic food, and having that be in a suburban area is a really special thing.
My wife and I have been involved for years with the Second Harvest Food Bank in Orange County, and a lot of it is because of kids, which has a definite combination with the Crystal Cove and what we do there. But Second Harvest Food Bank and my wife's charity, The Harvesters, has been a passion of ours for going on 30 years.
The first one that comes to mind is Oceana. And we were introduced to that by the McGilfreys. And
We were sort of adopted here in Laguna.
yeah, everybody kind of took us under their wing,
But
into the ocean wing, and
also,
it was fabulous.
even the friendship shelter, you know, it may not be on the coastline, but means a lot to us. Nancy Caruso's work is so hands-on, it's so important, and she's a guardian of our coastline, and we believe in what she's doing, and workforce education, which is very important to us, as Marisa's been involved with CASA for many years, and I in Orange County, trying to make a difference with young kids that are looking for opportunities.
Well, for certain, my story actually, because it originated at Crystal Cove, being on the gala committee for a number of years, I got to become very good friends with Madeline Swindon. And Madeline's, after working with me for a couple of years on the gala, she said, "Oh, I have plans for you." And so she brought me over to the mission at San Juan Capistrano, and I recently became a board member there. And I think, especially during this time, what Crystal Cove has been able to do with the outdoor classrooms and doing all your virtual learning, the mission is doing the same thing. And it's really imperative to bring those children from their living rooms into a classroom. And so what the mission's able to do by now not just adapting to the fourth grade classrooms of the California students, they're going all across the nation. And Crystal Cove is doing the same thing. So I love how that tie in is join it.
And for me, one of my passions is young adults and younger kids and education. I'm a trustee at Chapman, and I'm on the student body committee, and just love working with the raw kids who still think I'm smart.
Pacific Marine Mammal Center here in town, I'll talk about those organizations. We have supported them forever since that began. And they have also a tremendous educational outreach program. And then of course, Laguna Canyon Foundation with Hallie Jones out there and all the great work she's doing, particularly during this time since our trails have been inundated due to COVID. And so there's a lot of trail replacement work going on down now, improvement work. So anyway, those are two main organizations.
Okay, now it's time for some rapid fire questions. So I'll start over here with you, Barb and Greg. First off, whenever a new staff member joins us and we put their bio up on the website, one of the things that I ask them is for their Cove best, something that they really, just sort of their best thing about the Cove. So let's start with that. What's your Cove best?
Well, I like the beach cottage, you know, where the film Beaches was done, and the educational cottage right next door to it.
Cove best.
Just your one favorite thing about the Cove.
Tide pools at low tide.
Well, when I first discovered the beachcomber and the coconut macadamia nut pancakes, which I had on my honeymoon, oh, they were so good at the beach. I mean, how perfect could that be? But then having drinks on the sand, and how about you?
For me, I just have to. I mean, I just think that the idea of the cottages, with all the development going on the coastline and here, and just to have those cottages just take you back to a time that you can just picture what it must have been like. That for me is the biggie.
S'mores at one of the little rolly bonfires.
Early morning walks.
All right. Okay, Marisa and Steve, how about you? Favorite shake from the Shake Shack?
You know, I haven't had one yet, but when I do, I'm going to have the Oreo.
Okay.
Ditto. Ditto.
Oh, date shake.
All right.
Historic.
Oreos and cookies.
I'm gonna go with the Oreo again.
Definitely the date shake.
Okay. Best time of day at Crystal Cove?
We actually have a competing view on this if we like sunrise or sunset more, but either are equally blessed.
Low
Sunset.
tide.
I think towards sunset.
Yeah.
Sunset.
Mornings with beignets at the Beachcomber, for
All
sure.
right. Best season?
I would say fall when there are less crowds.
I love the fall. Oh.
Summer.
Fall for me.
Summer.
Fall.
Definitely fall and winter.
Favorite cottage?
13, the one at the end where they filmed the movie where no one goes.
And I like the Marine Research Center. I actually, one of the auction items one year at the gala was to be able to use that for a day And I surprised my daughter, who was 12 at the time, with a birthday party down there. And it was the best time, so much fun.
Number 14. And my son, he got really confused. He actually thought that was also our house. And so every time when he was about 3, he would be like, can we go to our house by the beach? And I kept trying to figure out what that was. And then finally, we come every year, and I think he just loves it so much. So it feels like home to him.
Best wildlife spotting? What have you seen?
Whales and dolphins.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of our favorite things to do when when our girls were younger, 4, 6 years old, 8 years old, we'd ride our bikes down here. Whales and dolphins, and we would see them right off of here, big schools.
The gray whales for me. There's nothing like the gray whales when they're migrating.
Well, many people have said whales and dolphins, yes, and ospreys.
Walking and seeing the osprey hit the water, catching fish.
Favorite Cove cocktail?
All of them.
Mojito.
Mojito, martini, which I haven't had something in such a long time, so any one of those.
The dark and stormy, especially when it's dark and stormy.
A beer, a cold one.
Mai Tai.
Okay.
Cosmo, sorry, it's always a Cosmo.
Right, how about you,
That's
Greg?
true. Well, I like Grey Goose Martini up.
All right. Well, that was great. I feel like I know so much more about all of you and why you love the Cove and why you support the work that we do. So I really appreciate talking to all of you today. And I'm really excited that we're all going to get together again on June 24th for our first in-person event post-COVID at Crystal Cove. And this will be your host committee. So thanks to all of you for coming today. And we can't wait to see all of you on June 24th.